Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. The NBA trade deadline just a few days away. Exciting times. And guess what? We have a trade. The Blazers providing more for us to break down, along with now the New Orleans Pelicans. We're going to spend this show talking about this big trade sending CJ McCollum down to New Orleans. Here's the full deal. You've got the Blazers getting Josh Hart, Tomas Satoransky, Nikhil Alexander-Walker, Didi Luzada, a protected, and there's some interesting protections on this, we'll get into it, a 2022 protected first-round pick and 2 second-round picks. The Pelicans, meanwhile, get CJ McCollum, Larry Nance Jr., and Tony Snell. Keith Smith, follow him on Twitter at Keith Smith NBA. More trade goodness from the NBA. I love it. This is exciting. A little bit more weirdness from Portland. I don't know. Which side do you want to start with here, Keith, on this breakdown?
Let's start with the New Orleans side. I think they're easier to understand why they would be doing this, and then we can get into Portland because I think it's a bigger conversation for Portland. Now, why is New Orleans doing this? Well, they're getting two really good players in CJ McCollum and Larry Nance Jr. It's that part is fairly straightforward, fairly simple for why you would do this as the Pelicans. They're pushing up the standings. They are up to, let me refresh here to make sure. Yeah, they are 10th now. They passed Portland. The other day, they've won 3 straight. They're still 4.5 behind the Lakers for 9th. That's a lot of ground to make up. So I'm not sure. We'll see that. And it's funny, a couple people said, why do I keep saying that? Once you get down to like 4 to 5 times the games left that you have to make up, it's really hard because you have to make up basically a game every third game if you're going to make up that ground, and that's just really difficult to do unless you see a team as really going one way or the other. And we can get into Lakers, but they're not going to bottom out here, so I just don't know how the Pelicans catch them. But it makes it a really interesting play-in game, for sure, if that's where it goes. I would now certainly have the Pelicans as the favorites to snag that final play-in spot, without a doubt. But this trade's not all about that, right? It's kind of about this year. This is really about next year and going forward. Next season now, the Pelicans will ideally open the season with Devontae Graham, CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, and Jonas Valanciunas as their starting group. And in reserve behind them, they will have Nance as kind of the main backup big. I shouldn't have said that with the starting group because maybe Herb Jones sticks in there. Maybe Graham goes back to that kind of super 6-man role he played. That's probably actually more likely with that. But regardless, you've got a top 7 now that's pretty good because you're going to have that group of guys I mentioned, plus Nance, plus Jones off your bench. You'll also have in that mix, you'll have Jackson Hayes, provided they keep him. You'll fill out with probably a veteran or two somewhere in there, and then all of a sudden you're looking pretty good if you're the Pelicans. That's a pretty good group, assuming health and Zion is ready to go and all that stuff. So that's what this is really about. This is about setting the table for going forward for New Orleans to feel really good that, hey, we're going to start next season with a starting group in our first couple reserve spots filled with some of the better players, better group of top 6-7 guys out there. Oh, Trevor. The Indiana Pacers are trading Sabonis.
Whoa.
Well, Woj butchered this tweet. Whoa. Hold on. He really butchered the tweet. He's having a heck of a day with the Twitter machine. But they're trading Sabonis to the Kings for Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, and Tristan Thompson. It's Jeremy Lamb and Jeremy
Lamb. They've cloned him. You've got the Lambs. Okay. Yeah.
2 Jeremy Lambs. I want to do two trade.
And he misspelled Sabonis too, or Domas.
Well, he did Domas. Sure, that's his nickname short. And I'm sure that was a Twitter character.
Holy moly.
Jeremy Lamb and Justin Holiday. Holy wow. My brain just kind of broke.
Tyrese,
Uh,
We're,
don't
we
cut
have to
any
leave
of this
this.
either,
We
because
have to leave all this
this is great. We're gonna leave this. All right, we'll come back to that one. Let's
process.
focus. We'll finish the Blazers
Halliburton.
Pelicans trade, and then we'll get
Holy
into this
moly.
Kings Pacers trade. This is fantastic. I love the trade week so much. It's like my favorite thing in the world. Um,
CJ McCollum.
all right.
CJ McCollum.
CJ McCollum to the Pelicans. All right, so the Pelicans, this is about for the future for them, right? You're setting up for a core group that is really McCollum, Ingram,
Mhm.
Zion, ideally. Valanciunas and Graham kind of float in and out. And then you've got Herb Jones as a very inexpensive player on the back end of that core group there, who is really, he'll fit nicely on a team with McCollum. One, you need him to because you need his perimeter defense. But beyond that, you need him to be a nice salary offset, right? Is the kind of minimal salary for the major salary guys that are going to be there, because Ingram's on a max, Zion will be on a max, McCollum for all intents and purposes is on a max there. So this is just for the Pelicans. This is about doing something forward. Fit wise, I I
Mhm.
think it's okay. I think McCollum is used to playing with other guys who need the ball, and I think he's at a point where he ages out a little bit. We see that's better for him, right? That you have Ingram and Zion who can take on more of the playmaking and the kind of every possession grind away from CJ, and then you have Devonte Graham who's there and can do his thing too. So yeah, this is this is great. With for them, I have no issue with this because they gave up.
Yeah.
We'll get into that on the Portland side, but I don't think they gave up a huge amount to go get this done. And it's a lot of money for CJ McCollum, but they're not a big free agent destination, so I'm okay with
When
this.
I look at this situation and I see what they've done with CJ McCollum, people will say, well, he doesn't fit their timeline. Okay, but he's only under contract for 2 more years, right? CJ McCollum is. So he's 30 right now. So you're looking at the end of the contract, he's 32. That's not the worst thing, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. He's still going to give you solid value for the next couple of years on that contract. He's a guy who can play the one or the two, depending on how you want to use him. He can play either spot. So if you've got another guard that you want to put in there, you've got a little bit of flexibility there with him. Shooting 40% from three on his career. Isn't that what you want alongside Zion Williamson? Is somebody who is going to burn teams when they collapse into the paint too much on Zion. Now we can talk about whether or not we see Zion again this season and all that. That's certainly a concern. But like you said, this is also about next year. It's
Sure.
about the year after that. I like this for the Pelicans, and I think
Yep.
in terms of what they gave up in order to get him, in order to get just talking McCollum, it's fine. Then you add in that they got Larry Nance Jr., who gives you a lot of defensive versatility. He can realistically defend 3 through 5, Larry Nance Jr. If you switched him onto a 2 temporarily in a switching scheme defense, you could probably get
Sure.
away with that. Not all the time, but every once in a while, you could expect him to move his feet and stay in front of some people. Now, maybe there's some injury concerns and things like that. But to get Larry Nance Jr. in this deal, I think, and that's part of this. The reporting on this was such a roller coaster. It was McCollum is going to the Pelicans, and then it became, oh well, Nickeil Alexander Walker is going back, and then people went, oh, maybe the Blazers didn't do too bad. Oh no, wait, now,
Hey, and
oh
let's
wait, Nance is involved. It was this back and forth roller coaster
yeah,
there.
yep. Let's pause there for a second because two things. One, I want to shout out Jake
Mm-hmm.
Fisher and Mark Stein, who have been kind of saying McCollum to the Pelicans has been like a thing for
Mm-hmm.
close to a week now. Both of them have been mentioning that, and now it's 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 different for like Woj and Shams because they don't necessarily do a whole lot of regular trade update stuff, right? It's more when news happens, they tend to be the news breakers on things. But shout out Jake and Mark because they were on this for close to a week now. So but to your point is this is why, right,
Mm-hmm.
we do what we do, right? We react to trades and like, holy cow, like this happened, right? We just kind of did it with the Sabonis thing here. But it's very important before you start
Mm-hmm.
writing pieces and firing off a million tweets. And part of why we don't immediately immediately record a show. We waited
Yep.
probably about 2 hours to make sure we had all of the details in, because if you rush right into it, you get into a spot where you may have missed something. And if we had done it right after the McCollum initial part was most of it was reported, we would have
Hmm.
missed the Larry Nance part. And that makes it really big for them. So much so, I don't know if you saw it on Twitter, but like I tweeted, the Blazers are going to have to cut a couple guys to make this trade. Pelicans fan
I
eight
saw that.
five and 4-7 whatever says, how do we do? We get Nance and Nurkic now too, and then actually got Nance. Like, so that's it's just crazy, right? It really is something with that, and I think it's important to wait on this. So you want to get over the Portland
Yes. Yeah.
side
Let's
now?
let's
Okay.
jump to the Portland side of this again. I've got a lot of people right now that are down on Portland for what they did here, and particularly coming on the heels of the trade they did with the Clippers, with Norman Powell, and saying this is now two trades in a row that the optics around it makes it look like they lost the trade. Particularly, they gave a first round pick 6 months ago, 7 months ago, to get Larry Nance
Mm-hmm.
Jr. I guess it was 6 months ago to get Larry Nance Jr.
Yeah.
And now you've traded
Yeah.
him away in a deal that only saw you bring back one first round pick, and CJ McCollum's going out as well. Now I think we need to, where we start though with this is Josh Hart, aka the most interesting contract in the world. So let's go over what that contract looks like and why that might have been a lure for the Blazers.
Yeah, he is one of the more unique contracts in the league. He's at $12 million this year, clearly fully guaranteed, as all contracts are now. Next year, he's at $12.96 million, so basically $13 million. But it is
Mhm.
non guaranteed. Then in 23-24, his contract is again for 12.96 million, but it's non-guaranteed, because if it's non-guaranteed 1 year, the following years have to be non-guaranteed. But on that final year, he also has a player option. So it is as close to Major League Baseball's mutual player
Mhm.
option or mutual option as you can get with that. So it's really kind of a fun setup there, where they can do really kind of whatever they want with Josh Hart here. It wouldn't shock me if he's flipped before Thursday. There were a lot of teams that
Mhm.
were trying to get Josh Hart. He's kind of seen as the like, I don't want to say inexpensive, because 12 million is not nothing, but a less expensive wing option for teams that are maybe, we weren't going to get in
Mhm.
on Jeremy Grant or Harrison Barnes or one of those guys. And he's a little smaller, of course. Those guys are 3-4s and Hart's a 2-3. But he was somebody that a lot of teams were interested in, especially Utah. I was really interested in him at one point. Cleveland was kind of in before they made the Karis LeVert trade. So just something to kind of keep in mind with that is you know, uh, his spot is
Mhm.
really kind of interesting to see where he ultimately ends up with this. So yeah, I'm very curious to see what Portland does with not only Hart, but what do they do going forward now? So I I'd hate to beat up on the best reporter in the game, but Woj tweeted that they get a $21 million trade exception and 60 million in cap space for next year. That's not how it works. You can't have
And cap
a
space.
trade exception and cap space. It's one or the other. Right now, today, they're still over the cap. They will probably stay over the cap for the rest of this season, minus a crazy out of nowhere Damian Lillard trade, which we'll get into that in a moment. But $21 million trade exception, that is true. 60 million in cap space is not possible for Portland without major moves coming. But somewhere between 16 and 30 something million, yeah, that's possible. And that's where it really kind of depends on what happens with the pick they got from the Pelicans. So we didn't cover that yet. I'll let you cover that in just a second, because it's got
Yeah.
goofy protections on it for this year. But it's what happens there. Let's see. Where that lands. But my guess is they'll be somewhere in that 20 to $30 million cap space range.
And when I'm looking at this from the Blazers' perspective, and you're bringing in Josh Hart, you're clearing this cap room. Some of that money is going to have to be used for Anthony Simons. So
Yeah, now that's factoring in
sure,
his cap hold. my numbers, above 20 something million. So what you'll do is you come to your agreement with him, let his cap hold sit on the books at about 11 million, and then you move forward with whatever you're going to do from there, and then you sign him last, order of
Right. That's
operations wise.
what you're gonna have to do. But I'm saying
Yep.
that the Blazers, to do this move, you've got your first round pick. So the Blazers now are probably going to be keeping their pick this year in the draft. If it's in the lottery, they keep it, and that's part of the
And,
benefit of doing this kind
yeah.
of stuff, offloading these salaries. You can almost look at it as, hey, we're also getting. I don't want to say an extra pick, but the benefit is we're going to get a lottery pick this year because now the Pelicans are definitely going to stay ahead of them, and so from their perspective, they're going to get their own lottery pick. Best case scenario, they get another lottery pick here from the Pelicans, which I can't say is going to happen, but best case from the Blazers' perspective, you get a lottery pick. Now that pick is protected 1 through 4. If it's 1 through 4, the Pelicans keep it. If it's 5 through 14,
Mhm.
then the Blazers will get it. And then anything after that, we've had too much going on. Who gets it after that? The Hornets. That's right. It
The
goes to the
Hornets.
Hornets. I was blanking for a second there. My mind was still on Halliburton and what was going on there.
I know. I'm already moving on to mentally
So
processing
best
there
case,
too.
if
I'm
you're
with
the
you.
Blazers, you're getting 2 lottery picks this year. Best case. But the goal has been put out there by
Yep.
Woj that their plan is still to build this thing around Damian Lillard. And you just shipped out CJ McCollum. You just shipped out Norman Powell, Robert Covington. You got a lot less than what you gave up to get these things, particularly when we talk about what they gave up in order to get like Larry Nance Jr., what they gave up to get Robert Covington. You just sold for less than what you paid for these guys' contracts.
Hmm.
And now you're going to try to take the stuff that you got, whether it's cap room, draft assets, and you're going to try to rebuild this thing in the offseason around Damian Lillard. That's quite the gamble because this isn't the offseason where there's a bunch of big name free agents where you want to have a ton of cap space for. It's not like teams right now are hoarding cap space because, oh my gosh, Giannis is out there. That player isn't out there this year unless something crazy happens with James
Nope.
Harden or Kyrie Irving or Bradley Beal. And there isn't a sense that the Blazers are going to be a landing spot for those guys. So if you're the Blazers, what happens this summer when you don't get any of those major pieces and you're trying to rebuild about Damian Lillard and you've just jettisoned all this stuff?
Sure.
Where do you go from there? Like, I feel like this is pushing more towards trading Damian Lillard away than anything else on the off chance that maybe you can turn the stuff that you got into something that was better than what you already had.
Yeah, I don't fully get it, right? Because it's not like Damian Lillard is 25. He's 32. So you're in a spot where it's not that he's done. I think this surgery is going to get him back to good and he should be fine going forward. But he's not sitting here looking to, uh, hey, let's build this thing up and go, right? It's, no, we got to go, right? Like we got to go now. It's not a, all right, let's reset, let's build this around me and let's move it forward. Like it's got to be done now. So yeah, I'm very curious to see, obviously, right now for Portland, the sum result of these two trades is we got to wait
Yeah.
now and see what do they do moving forward because it's that's clearly a huge key to this, right? We can't fully judge this. If they come out somehow with
Mm-hmm.
another great player with Lillard, Simons, maybe a re-signed Nurkic, maybe one of these young guys that they got pops for them, all of a sudden we might be like, all
Mm-hmm.
right, Portland did okay here, right? Because I mean, it's if nothing else, I mean, God, I've been beating this drum forever, and our two chunky lemon milk teams are doing it. It's pick a direction and go. Right? You can't sit there and waffle in the middle. In Portland, we can argue maybe they should have done better in the returns for their trades. That's fine. But
Mm-hmm.
we don't know what was out there, right? That story will get told probably within the next 2 to 6 months, right? We'll get the full picture of, they tried to get 2 first round picks and it wasn't there or whatever. But yeah, it's now what comes from here is just as
Mm-hmm.
important as these trades for Portland. And I'll say this more so. It's even more important. They have to nail these details going
And
forward.
that to me is the big risk here. That's the risk here.
Yep.
You mentioned Damian Lillard's
Yeah.
age. You have this summer. That's it. It's not like it's not like you can be patient,
Yep.
and if you're Portland, you can say, well, you know what, we've got these assets. Oh, the right move isn't here this summer. Let's not force it. Let's be smart. Let's wait until next year. You can't wait. You've got Damian Lillard. So you're going to have to make a decision based on what's out there this summer. Either you're going to make the moves and you're going to rebuild around Damian Lillard, or you're going to be trading Damian Lillard this summer. That's realistically what Portland is looking at now. And maybe long term, you might be right. Maybe long term that does work out for them. It very well might. It might be that this stuff that they did here turns into something great. It may be that it pushes them to move Lillard, and it turns out that's the right move because he's on his last legs and they get a great return, and then off they go. And next thing you know, you've got a rebuilt Blazers team. I'm not saying this isn't going to work out for Portland. I'm saying this is putting a lot on what happens this summer and what decisions come next and what they can get out of these assets that they've landed, whether that's stuff that they keep, stuff that they ultimately trade. The assets that they got here, the return that they got here is ultimately going to be what builds this next iteration of whatever the Blazers are going to look like. And that's where not getting enough really in these trades can maybe come back to haunt them. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe it works out for Portland. I know right now Blazers fans are probably fairly frustrated, but we'll see where this goes. I mean, we can't fully judge this until we see what they turn this into in the offseason.
Yeah, 100%. That's it, right? It's this is one. It's going to take us a little while to watch this play out.
Yeah.
All right, that'll do it. I think for this trade for now. We'll more things will come to us over the course of the next little bit. Part of the nice thing about the trade deadline after being before the All-Star break, beyond players getting traded while they're
right.
in the All-Star
Boogie.
game, like DeMarcus Cousins did, is we have that dead time on the calendar where we can kind of rethink some of these things and go back, and things will occur to us, and we'll come back with more thoughts on that. We've got another one to get into though, so I think let's cut this one here, my friend, and then let's do. We were going to get into a whole bunch of news, but I think we're going to have to do another trade
Yeah,
breakdown.
that's what we will do. So this'll wrap up this trade, the Blazers and Pelicans trade. What we're going to do now is we will do in our next video, we'll break down what just happened. What just happened with the Indiana Pacers and the Sacramento Kings. So that's coming up in the next video. Make sure you are on the lookout for that one. Till then, everybody, make sure you're subscribed right here to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Ring the notification bell as well. That way you get notified as soon as we put out a new video. We're breaking down everything that goes on trade-wise in the NBA. So again, make sure you are subscribed. Till then, everybody, see ya and stay safe.